Hi, I'm Sarithra, and today I am going on a floss adventure. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I have a whole video on the idea, but basically each year I take the ridiculous amount of embroidery thread I have and find a new use for it, other than cross stitch. This year, I'll be trying out Sashiko. That was voted on by my patrons. Thank you very much for giving me the push to do that. Now, the main idea of this challenge is in June to try out a new craft using the materials that you already have on hand, namely embroidery thread. Now, I like to use the thread that I can't use for my normal patterns. This box here is thrifted threads. However, Sashiko is not typically done with embroidery thread. It's done with Sashiko thread, which is a slightly different ply. It's not stranded. You're not supposed to pull them apart like you are with embroidery thread. However, the concept of Sashiko is also to use what they had on hand to reinforce their clothing. So like the whole reason that the quintessential Sashiko item is a indigo fabric with white cotton thread is because that's what they had. So I still think this is in the spirit of it. If you use a strand of a full 6 strands of embroidery thread, or if you split it up, you try whatever, it still gives you a general idea of the craft. However, from what I'm reading online, sometimes a good replacement for Sashiko thread, if you can't get your hands on it, is pearl cotton thread. And that I do have a lot of. Not necessarily branded, like I have some very generic brand number 5 right here. That's an option. And I also have a whole drawer, so I'm going to be using that. But again, you could just use regular embroidery thread. Now, what am I making? I like to start off with a nice small project, and I don't like just doing swatches. I want to make it into something. So if you saw my previous ones, like I've made a little pouch with some chicken scratch embroidery. I made a whole little sewing kit using crazy quilting for the cover. And I also did some embroidery on the pocket. So like, that's an option. I don't want to make another bag this year, although I do like bags. But I just recently did this English paper piecing cross-stitch portfolio, so I'm good with bags for a bit. What I want to do is make a Biscornu. Now, I love Biscornu. I have a whole basket full of Biscornu right here. Is this necessary? Absolutely not. Point being, I like Biscornu. This is just a cute little shape. They're fun to make. They're easy. They're quick. Perfect. So, first idea, a Biscornu. Now, I don't have indigo cloth, and I don't want to go out and buy indigo cloth because, again, that defeats the whole purpose of the challenge. So here are the solids that I have, because I mostly have patterned fabrics, let's be real. I have like a muslin, and I have the most Siri colors ever. Like, these are my brand colors. Wow. So I'll be making something with that. But I think to start off with, I'm gonna cut out a couple squares of this. Now, since it's usually white on blue, I'm gonna reverse it and do a dark blue on white. I went to the local crafty reuse store and I found this pattern. Yeah, nothing about this implies that it's just the pattern squares, not the flowers, but that's okay. The pattern squares is what I was after, so I picked out 2 designs that I'm going to use for my Biscornu. And like I said, I have this muslin. It's very thin, so I think I'm going to do 2 layers, which should be interesting. You can see my ruler through that, it's pretty transparent, which will be good for transferring the pattern. I'm gonna start off by marking off my seam allowances, and then we will base them together using that. And I'm just using a water-soluble pen. I do have some heat erasable pens as well, but I don't trust those for anything that might be visible later. So now I'm gonna baste these pieces of fabric together, not really roughly. Just so that they don't move about while I'm stitching. I'm not taking care to have particularly even stitches or anything. And because I haven't really done anything yet, and it's already fraying, I'm just gonna run some fray check along these edges. Normally we have like transfer paper that you like put on it and then trace this over to transfer it over, but I don't have that. What I do have is a light. And thankfully this muslin is thin enough that I can just pop it right on there. So I'm gonna try to center this design. My head's probably sticking in front of the camera, I'm sorry. So I'll center that with one of the diamonds. And look at that. Alright, we have our first transfer. It's not perfect, and I had to go over a few sections a couple times to fix the wonkiness, but it is good enough for me for a first project. Let me do the other one. I'll actually probably start with this one because it's a little bit more straight lines, but you're probably sick of watching me transfer, so I will skip ahead. Alrighty, so we have both of our patterns transfer. Let's get to stitching. Oh, I've got my first square. I've got my number 5 pearl cotton in a approximation of 798, and I'm gonna figure this out. Now, I have never done Sashiko before, so this is not a tutorial. If I haven't made that clear already, this is just me figuring it out for the first time. I have seen videos here on YouTube, so I have a general idea of what we're supposed to be doing. And I'm going to be starting from the edge. And because this inner edge is going to be sewn into the Biscornu, I'm not too worried about the back, but I do want to practice trying to make my backs neat. Figure that out. And I'm trying to space these evenly apart. So from what I understand, the main focus with Sashiko is first the regularity of the stitches, right? Second, not crossing over the threads, if that makes sense. So making sure that each line ends or starts a stitch. I'm not using any special Sashiko needles or anything. This is just whatever needle I had on hand. Since I'm trying to do this all as one continuous line, I'm kind of gonna go across here, and then on the back there will just be a little loop gap. Right, so I just won't pull that as tight. And I started with this one because it seemed the most simple. And because I have no idea what I'm doing, it'll be nice to get a feel for it.
Voiceover series. So naturally, I posted about this as a work in progress on Instagram the next day, and I was told I was doing it wrong and I should be stitching all the way across the fabric and then like skipping between the zigzags rather than doing one zigzag at a time, but I had already gone too far, so I just kind of did it this way. I don't know. It's fine. Doing it wrong is okay. it still turned out fine. Do I now know for next time? Yep.
So with this one, I've been trying to find a guide on like what order to stitch this one in, and I've found some similar ones, but not this one exactly. And I think the main thing that I'm going to do is stitch these larger squares first by doing a zigzag. Right, I'm going to start over here. And from what I understand, I don't want to stitch to be where it crosses there. So I'm going to back stitch just to anchor my thread. And then I'm going to skip that little gap and start stitching that way. So I'm skipping where the two lines meet and just kind of stitching to end in a corner. Not the most even stitches, but it's okay. Slowly getting the hang of it. It took a little while to get the zigzag pattern down, so I'm expecting it to be similar here. Those are not super even, but that's okay. And that is a skill that comes with time, and I can't rush it. I just gotta do my best. I will say, after working with this thick number 5 pearl cotton, I'm looking forward to trying out the thinner one. It is working well on this muslin though, because it's a super kind of loose weave. That's why it's so transparent. So it does work. I don't know, I'm not used to working with thread quite so thick. Oh no, I seem to have reached a dead end. Was there a more efficient way to do this pattern? Yeah, probably. Don't know what it is. I'm not worrying too much about it because, again, the back's going to be inside of Biscornu, so no one will ever see it. What I am going to do, though, is since I'm over here, I'm going to back stitch to this spot and go that way. And by back stitch, I'm going to go over the stitches that I've already done in the same place. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but here I am. And you can't stop me. But I think that way it looks pretty seamless. I think that's enough for right now. I'm gonna work on this off screen and come back to you when it's done. Alrighty, we have our 2 pieces of Sashiko. Look at that. This one took longer, but this one I kind of got lost in what path to take, I guess. I don't know. Both very interesting designs. I managed to get something on this when I ironed it. I don't know what's going on. It's a little dirty looking, but that's fine. This is just a sample anyway. But now it's time to turn it into a Biscornu. It's not working. I guess I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. So, I've marked off the halfway points on each one. We're going to get our pieces right sides together, and I'm going to line up the corner of one with the middle of another. And I'm going to stitch and then rotate and keep stitching and rotating. But I'm going to do it on the machine because I'm feeling lazy. I don't know. Let's go over there. I'm going to be stitching in this beige color because I don't know, it's what I had in the machine and I'm too lazy to change it. Hurrah! Now you could sew this by hand, but I'm not gonna. And then right before I get to the middle of one and thus the end of the other, I'm gonna rotate this and match up with my middle right here, and then continue. Now I have not made a Biscornu by machine again, so we'll see how well this turns out. But how hard can it be, really? It's also a larger Biscornu than I usually make, but that's fine too. We're about halfway. How's our seams looking so far? Could be worse. One more, because we're not doing the last one on the machine. We'll do that one by hand. And let's turn it out to be right sides out. Find that spot we missed. Ah, yes, I see what happened there. It's like the bottom slid while I was sewing, so we have this little line here. That's okay. Everyone's always afraid to make mistakes, but you're not really an expert at something until you've made enough mistakes to know how to fix your mistakes. So it's all part of learning. You gotta learn to make mistakes too. And you gotta learn how to not be paralyzed by your mistakes, because they're not the end of the world, usually. And turn it right sides out. Looking kind of Biscornu-esque. Now we just need to stuff it with something. It's a little bit larger of a Biscornu than I normally do, but that's okay. And I put this spot in the middle specifically so we could put a big old button in there, so that'll be fun. I am using polyfill because I have a whole bunch of it that I got for pretty cheap at a thrift store one time. And there's no reason for me to not use it. I don't know that I've necessarily bought it at full price on my own, but it works when I need to stuff things. And the trick with Biscornu is you actually want to stuff them more than you think you need to, because it will compress over time. And then you end up with a slightly flat Biscornu. I've got a bunch of my older ones that are like that. I should have marked the middle of this before. It's fine, I'll figure it out. The last part is we're going to fold this in, and we're going to do some ladder stitch by hand, I think. I could just top stitch it on the machine, and I really want to because I'm feeling pretty lazy, but I'm not gonna. Let's go back over to my desk and I'll stitch that up. And I'm going to fold it in, and this is very finagly, but again, does not have to be perfect. But I'm going to clip it kind of where I want it to be, just to remove that tension from that fabric constantly trying to undo itself. If you've never done a ladder stitch, it's pretty simple. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it well on here, but there are plenty of other YouTube videos out there about it. You're just taking a little chunk on one side of the fabric and then going straight across and taking another little chunk. That way the stitches are almost invisible. And that was probably a bigger chunk than I wanted. So let's try that again, but smaller. Because now we have this little loop. So I'm going to go back to where that little hole is and come up right through the middle and just go straight across. And go back to where I was over there. Now, because this thing is stuffed full and it's constantly trying to open at the seams, it is going to be a little tricky. Sorry if the camera wobbles. I have it on a tripod stand in between my legs, awkwardly blocking my view of what I'm doing, so probably not helping with the finickiness, but hey. And I'm gonna twist around, do a little French knot, stick my needle, go a couple steps, do another little knot. Now we've got to push the stuffing into place. Look how cute and wonky it is. So last part is to put a big old button in the middle to cinch it down. So you don't have to use a button. I mean, this is a cute little pillow all on its own, but the quintessential Biscornu shape And it's a little button. Actually, this month's article on my website is all about the different ways to decorate your Biscornu and like different things you can put in here. Like you could cinch it down in the middle with beads or charms or flowers or whatever. I'm just making it plain old Biscornu because that's what I feel like. But let's go find a button for this guy. I've still got at least one other project I want to do. So let me go show you what I'm planning. So the second idea I had is sort of a bag, but it's a business card holder. So I have these business cards and I'd like a small little folio to chuck into my bag to have a couple business cards on hand, just in case. You never know. So I found this really cute pattern on a spoonful of sugar. I love this site. I've done several of their projects and I definitely recommend them. But to make a little card case. And I think that would be perfect. Since these are basically my brand colors, I think it would work out well for a business card case. So I'm thinking the green will probably be the inside of the case, and then the purple on the outside. And I do happen to have some pearl cotton in a little bit darker, but basically the same teal. So I think if we do a Sashiko pattern on this purple with the pearl cotton, it would be really cute, and then have the inside kind of reflect that color. So that's my second project. Now I've printed out this template from a spoonful of sugar, and I've added some estimations of seam allowances, which I'll have to transfer as well. And here's the two fabrics we're using. We're using the purple for the outside and the green for the inside. Now this is also a really thin fabric. I don't know if you can tell. And I would normally do 2 layers, but since we're doing an inner lining and probably some interfacing, I'm gonna be fine without it. It's cool. The materials call for 2 small pieces of fusible interfacing, but you just used flannel. I might just do that. Here's some chunks of Frankenstein's cotton batting that I could absolutely use. I do like reusing scraps like this for other projects. Always good to reduce waste whichever way you can. Are you like me? Do you reuse every little scrap of fabric you can? I definitely try to. Let's find out if my light table works for this fabric. It does. Yay for stupidly thin fabrics. And skip ahead to the interesting. Okay, here we go. I think I've got it transferred. I tried to line up where the snaps will be with the pattern. So like this one up here should be about the center of that circle. I tried to line up this center line with the pattern. We'll see how well that turns out. Doesn't have to be perfect though, it's fine.
My microphone decided to not work that day, so here's just some extremely sped up time lapse of the stitching process and the final piece. And then I turned it into a little business card holder. I didn't film me sewing it together because it's not my tutorial. You can check it out on the Spoonful of Sugar website, but it did turn out super cute and I kind of love it. What do you think? Did it turn out okay? The snaps are not super even and you can tell that it's a little leaning to one side, but you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to contain business cards, which it does. You can see my stitching around the sides was a little wonky. The tension on my machine is off and I haven't gotten around to spending time fixing it. So, you know. I did clean it though. Remember to clean your machines, y'all. It was very dusty. But yeah, we have our finishes. Look at that. We have a big old Biscornu. And we have a very convenient little
business card holder that I have put too many business cards in, so it's kind of hard to get stuff out of, but that's fine. It actually fits quite a few. I could probably cram more in there, but it's already kind of hard to get a single one out. I have tried Sashiko. It was enjoyable, especially this one. I really liked the thinner pearl cotton. It stitched much smoother. Plus, it was a more interesting pattern, I feel like. I know I did things wrong. Apparently, I stitched the zigzag in the wrong order. I'm sure there's mistakes here and there. My sewing together wasn't the neatest. But you don't have to be perfect when trying out a new craft. In fact, it's kind of better that you not be perfect, because you don't want to set false expectations for the future, because you will mess up. That is a fact of life. So, like, my machine had a little bit of tension issues, and I was too lazy to unpick it and redo it once I fixed said tension. But hey, I have a little pouch. It is perfectly functional, if a little wonky, and that's okay. We learned something new. That's what we were here for. This was enough to know that I will probably do some Sashiko again. Maybe doing some mending or like decorating some clothing. The question is now, will you try Sashiko or will you try something else? There's a whole list of stuff that you can try using just embroidery thread and materials you might already have on hand. June is almost over, so I'm pretty much done with this year's Floss adventure. We'll come back next year and see what else I get up to, but you don't have to wait until next June. You can do that at any time that you have a bunch of extra embroidery thread that you don't know what to do with. But whatever you decide to do next, keep making stuff. That's not my saying. Keep creating. You know what I meant. See you next time. I'll probably edit most of this out because it's boring as shit.